Hey everyone, Voodoo here. So Blizzard has announced all of the balance changes coming to Season 4 of Shadowlands. Of course, the new season, there's opportunity to change things. There's a few nerfs to some classes, a few buffs to some classes, and a ton of item and trinket changes. So in this video, we're going to go over all of that. Okay, so the first thing we're going to touch on are the class balance changes. Now, there's two nerfs, and I think people already can guess what they're for, and a few different classes that got buffed, so we're obviously just going to jump into it. Everything's up on Wildhead if you want to take a look at it yourself. They have a bunch of posts on it, so go look at it up there. So go look at it up there. Anyways, so first class, Balanced Druid. Now, I used to play Balanced Druid in 9.1. I played it in 8.3. All they're doing here is increasing their Starfall damage by 15%. I don't think this will do anything really major to kind of boost balance up into the stratosphere for AoE. But it will do a little bit. Balance's AoE kind of has started to fall off because of how they can't stack Starfalls and how it doesn't really scale with more haste or Astral Power generation. This is a good increase, but I think the bigger thing here is that they're saying, looking at different solutions for the future. So if you're a Boomy main, if you play Balanced Druid, I think you should be hopeful that your AoE will get better in Dragonflight, but for now you're just going to be doing a little bit more. Now here's one of the big changes. Survival. We all knew Survival was going to be nerfed, right? Really there were two ways they were going to do it. They were going to either reduce bomb damage and cap it and then uncap it, or I think they were going to reduce bomb damage more heavily and then buff them. They kind of went for a middle way. So first off, Wildfire Bomb and any variants with Wildfire Infusion, so that's your Shrapnel Bomb, your Pheromone Bomb, or your Poison Bomb, are all 8 target capped now, so they do reduce damage beyond that. I think this is really good. For some reason, Wildfire Bomb was uncapped and was doing incredible damage. It would just hit like a truck and hit everything for the same amount. So I think now that that's been reined back, I think Survival won't be as crazy as it was. They're also reducing the Wildfire Bomb damage from the tier set by 10%. Again, I think this is fine. The tier set giving 30% to Wildfire Bomb is crazy. Like, if you take any singular ability on most classes and add 30% to it, it will be doing a lot of damage. So if you take it with Wildfire Bomb, which is just one of these just crazy talents that Survival has, that is uncapped, that can hit everything, and that has really high damage, and add 30% to it, it got kind of out of hand. And to make up for these cap changes and the 10% less bomb damage, they're also actually buffing their single target. So Raptor Strike and Longest Bite are basically the same spell. They're just talents that alternate that change the playstyle. Up by 15%, and then Kill Command up by 15%. So this is actually kind of interesting. So you do also use these in M+, right? You use Tip of the Spear with Raptor Strike, and you use Kill Command to obviously generate focus and also to reset your bombs. So I think that this single target buff will be pretty good. I think they'll still be decent in Raid. I don't think they'll be as oppressive in M+. I still think they're going to be one of the best specs in the game. I don't think that the higher the power level disparity that was there is going to be there still. So I think if you're Survival, you're overall pretty happy with these changes. Still in a good spot. You're still happy with where you are. You're just not as crazy as you were before. Mage got a really inconsequential buff. Clear casting has 5 more seconds of duration. This isn't really anything that'll affect PvE at all. You almost always just blast your clear casting procs. This is more of a PvP thing. So we're not really to say there. Spinning Crane Kick, 5% nerf for Windwalker. This will do almost nothing. That's like a tickle. 5% is barely anything. This is obviously one of their strongest abilities in AoE. They have crazy AoE damage with Spinning Crane Kick. And I guess this is just kind of rein them in a little bit. Obviously with the Survival nerfs that we've seen already, that a Windwalker would have just been the best. So I guess a 5% nerf is to kind of rein that back a little bit. Again, I don't think this is really going to knock them off their pedestal. They're still going to be one of the best AoE specs and have a really good, a really decent single target now with those buffs that happened beforehand. So I think honestly, this one is pretty much a non-change, just a very small number on Spinning Crane Kick. I think Paladin changes are interesting. So Armor up by 5%, and Holy Shield gets 5% more block chance. It's really interesting. So we progged with a Holy Paladin, not a Holy Paladin, a Prot Paladin, sorry, in Jailer, and they would just die to melees a lot. The Jailer has a ton of melee damage. So 5% more armor, as well as a little bit more chance to block with Holy Shield, will help reduce their kind of weakness they had to melee damage, as well as give them a little bit more benefit against casting and spells and stuff like that. So this will be a little bit of a buff in M+ as well. Overall, you know, nothing too impactful, but I still think it's a really good buff, just kind of touching it up a little bit. Next interesting one is Shadow. So Shadow's AoE is still really anemic. Most Shadow Priests kind of hate how it plays in AoE. With Searing Nightmare and all that application and stuff. So what they've done is they've increased the damage of Mind Seer, which is your base cast. They've increased the damage of Searing Nightmare by 15%, and they've also increased the damage of Shadow Crash. I think this will definitely boost up not survival, Shadow's playability in M+. I don't think it's going to become crazy or anything. But I do think it will be getting fairly better. This is basically all of their AoE abilities buffed by 30 to 15%, so it's a decent enough buff. However, Shadow still has a fair bit of ramp-up time in AoE, and obviously higher teams can't really, I guess higher teams doesn't matter, but like in like an MDI or a Great Push scenario, you wouldn't be able to bring this and Holy Priest, and I still think Holy Priest is the best healer by far. There were no healer changes, so while I do think this is good, I don't think it's going to really bump Shadow up too much. They won't be as bad as they once were. You're going to feel a lot better playing them in AoE, and you'll feel a lot better just taking them into your parties, right? Like, you're not going to be like, oh, ooh, I don't want Shadow. They'll at least do some decent AoE damage now that isn't, like, in, like, 400 targets or something like that. They also said that they're going to watch their AoE in Dragonflight, which is another big one. Same with the Druid one. So we haven't really seen Shadow changes yet. Looking forward to those coming out. Shadow's Tree is pretty bad. But the fact that they're watching it and they're giving them these kind of buffs is a good sign. So the second of the nerfs, Destro. Now we knew these were going to happen already. The big nerf is that Blasphemy no longer grants Reign of Chaos. So basically your 4-set summons a Purple Infernal, which extends your Reign of Chaos buff, which allows you to have Infernals basically the entire dungeon, basically the whole way through, and almost constantly in single target as well. This made them incredibly powerful. They had really, really strong sustained damage to many targets. You'd see Warlocks pulling 70 to 100k pretty easily all the time in high keys, which is crazy numbers, right? You'd also see them doing really high single target damage in raids. Also with cleave fights where they could Havoc. Oh god, what's that spell? The Kyrian spell. Scouring Tithe, I think. Anyways, they get a lot of benefit from certain abilities. But Blasphemy no longer gaining Reign of Chaos really reduces the amount of Infernal uptime they will have, so it reduces their shard generation and kind of their sustained damage. There's still going to be an incredibly strong 2-minute to 1.5 minute class with Infernal. Infernals are still going to have crazy, crazy burst damage in AoE and in single target. But I think the fact that Blasphemy no longer grants Reign of Chaos definitely brings them down in those areas. So to combat that in single target, because it would really hurt them in single target, right? Chaos Bolt has a 5% increase in PvE. Conflag is 10% PvE, and then Instant Rain and Immolate are both up by 20%. So this is pretty big single target buffs. This is basically all of their entire rotation was buffed by 5 to 20%. So I think they're still going to be really good in raid. AoE, I still think they're going to be the best range spec, one of the best classes. They just won't be as crazy as they were. They won't have that always up Giga blasting 70k. It'll be more subdued. And the last one is Prot Warrior. Now, I actually think this one's kind of big. So Prot Warrior, what's basically happening here is Ignore Pain can can absorb 30% more. And the maximum cap is now based on max health instead of twice of the Ignore Pain absorb value. So you can absorb a lot more damage with Ignore Pain, and you can have a much higher cap on the Ignore Pain you have. I think this is pretty big. I think you might actually see them rise up the ranks of tanks in M+ now. Raid, I don't think it'll be that much damage, that big of a difference, but I think in M+, where there's a lot of magic or unblockable damage, this will really allow them to kind of have a big increase. They have fairly decent AoE damage with Spear and Ravager, or if you're playing Glory with the Necrolord, you have a lot of rage generation. So I think that the fact that they can have just a bigger Ignore Pain gives them some pretty needed survivability that will kind of bring them up out of that worst M+ tank area that they've been in. So those are all the class changes. We're going to go touch on the item changes now. So before we get going with the item changes, I just want to say that I really appreciate if you're still watching this video that you leave a like, you comment, and subscribe. I'm a really, really small channel, still trying to grow. I have a goal of hitting 500 subs by the time Dragonflight comes out, and we're going to do a giveaway if that happens. And we're on our way there, but, you know, all the support, I really appreciate. I really would appreciate your help. You know, big deal. This is something I really enjoy doing, and I would love to keep doing it. So please sub, please like, please comment, and I just want to thank you for doing that. With that out of the way, we're going to keep going on to the item changes. So because of all the nature of Season 4, right? Like, there's a rotating raid schedule, there's a bunch of new dungeons coming in, there's a lot of heavy itemization changes that are coming. So realistically, most things aren't getting nerfed. They're just buffing underused trinkets. Now, there are a few exceptions. There are 3 nerfs to trinkets, which we will cover. But for the most part, I don't want to say bad, but worse trinkets from the 3 raids, so from Sepulture, Nathria, and Sanctum, are being buffed up to be more competitive to the other good options. This will basically help it so that you don't feel bad getting these trinkets from a boss. I don't know if they're going to be good enough to be like Biss yet. I haven't had my finger on the pulse of all this classes for Sims and stuff. I know they won't beat out any of this stuff for Demon Hunter. But I still think they could have some interesting options. All right, so for the nerfs, the first two nerfs are from older dungeon trinkets. They're nerfing the damage and absorb from scale, and they're nerfing the secondary stat gain from cube by 25% each. Basically, what they're doing here is making it so that if you have these 278 trinkets from beforehand, like if you're a boomy with a cube or a tank with a scale, you probably would have still been using these just because of how crazy they are for your classes. And them nerfing this makes it so that if you don't have that 278 item from the previous season, you feel a lot better about yourself, and it won't be forced to kind of get this thing that you can't even get anymore, right? Because these items will be capped at 262, so M0 eye level in Season 4. So if you're out of luck and these were still the best, then you're just kind of out of luck. So them killing these basically ensures that that won't happen. I think it's a good change. You know, get out of here, Cube, get out of here, Scale. They've been the best trinket for the last 2 years, so I'm glad to see something different. There's one more nerf, which we'll cover when we get to the raid trinkets. There's a few buffs too. So the increased Edge of Night and Legendary Sylvanas Bow drop chance, not that big of a deal. Edge of Night you can buy with the coins. The bow is only really good for BM Hunter. MM Hunter just doesn't really have the globals to use it. Also, if you already have the bow, you can upgrade it to Faded. So it's not really anything too big of a deal, but having a higher increased drop chance is nice. They're also buffing two weapons from Sepulture. They're buffing Genesis Lathe, which is the healer thing, by 10%. I don't think that'd be that big of a deal, but it'd be a nice bonus if you get it. And they're buffing the shield by 20%. This could be pretty interesting. There's like one other shield from one of the Mythic Plus dungeons coming back that has an effect. I don't know what it is off the top of my head. I don't play any shield classes. But I think this would probably be one of the better shields to pick up. Missing the eye level might affect it, because I believe you can get a 311 shield from somewhere. But the fact that it has 20% increased damage or absorb, I think, makes it a little bit better. From there, it's all just trinkets. So they've gone and buffed. You can see here all these buffs to everything. Trinkets from different raids. So we'll start with Nathria. Taking you back, Nathria. So they're buffing sheet music. The dancers will stay up 25% longer. This is sheet music, so 4 dance partners appear in a random pattern around you, and each one you grab gives you haste. This trinket kind of sucked back in Nathria. It's just really hard to grab the dancers, and I don't think this will make it much better. Them being up longer makes it a little bit more of a quality of life, meaning that you can grab it a fair bit easier, but I don't think this will really be a desired trinket. So Skulker's Wing, damage increased by 10%. Realistically, Skulker's Wing was used a little bit. It can do really good single target damage. It was used in PvP a lot back in Nathria. You also get yourself killed pretty easily by it, but I don't think it'll be better than options available to Agi or Strength users. You have stuff like Cash, you have the Guardian Trinket from during the first ones, you have Old Warrior Soul, but I do think the damage will make it a little bit better. You gotta be careful using this though, you definitely can die with it. Memory of Past Sins, damage increased by 10%. Memory of Past Sins was fine back in Nathria. Basically, you'd use it and your next 5 abilities would deal damage with each time it got that damage. It would increase by 1%, stacking 25 times, so it really incentivized you to have a lot of people in your raid with this. It was always okay. It was never really anything amazing. It getting 10% more, yeah, you're not going to feel as bad having it, but again, it won't be better than other options. And then Mana Bound Mirror, non-stored healing increased by 10%, and healing stored per mana spent increased by 20%. So basically, for every mana you spent, you'd store some healing within it, and then you could use it to restore, to send out that healing. I also think there's better healing trinkets, like just straight up stat trinkets, like Elegy or the Eye from the Eye boss and Sanctum. There's also stuff like first class healing distributor from Tazavesh. There's a few other stuff. I don't think you're really going to be feeding from Mana Bound Mirror. I think it's a little bit better than it was, but again, nothing too crazy. Moving on to Sod now. They got Decanter of Endless Howling, so this is whenever you crit, you got main stat. Again, Prime stat increased by 10%. It'll be better, but it won't be better than other trinkets. So, buff doesn't really affect anything. Now this one's interesting. So they nerfed Old Warrior Soul haste granted per stack by 10%. I think this is 100% needed. So Old Warrior Soul was the best trinket if you could use it, even at oh man, what was Mythic Eye level? Like 250 something, 260 something, something around there. It was the best, even though it was under eye level for this patch. So this coming in at 311 eye level would be insane. It would be one of the best trinkets I've ever made in the game. Be super dominant. You'd either, but you'd have this or you'd just be so far behind anybody else. Even right now, you're like that. So making it that each stack gives you 10% less haste. And there's a total of 5 stacks, so sort of 50% less haste, but not really, because that's not really how math works. It's 10%. 5 times isn't 50%, you know what I mean? But this is still going to be BIS. This is one of the best trinkets ever made, of course. So anybody who can get this, buy this with your dinar, loot it with Mythic. You're going to want this still. Relative frozen waste damage increased by 15%. This trinket was close for a little bit at the start of the patch. I think it just got blown out of the water by other stuff. I still think it's going to be the same. I don't think 50% is going to be big enough to change it. Basically, your attacks have a chance to deal frost damage, and then you can use it to kind of call forth a Nerubian. It's like sort of, I believe it's like sort of Urchin from BFA, but like way worse. So, you know, don't really worry about it. Resonant Silver Bell was never used. Whenever you heal an ally, you can summon a cat to heal them. You just does more healing, and the cat appears more often. I don't think it'd be that big. Shadow Orb Reformer. I think this was good for certain healing classes, like Druid or something, because it just gives you a lot of mastery. Could also be interesting for Boomy now that they don't have Cube anymore. I do think that there might be a chance this is actually run. It getting more mastery is decent. I could see maybe some classes using this as kind of a font-esque ability. So we'll see on this one. Jury's still out. I don't think it'll be that good, but you know, you never know. And then Tome Monstrous Constructions. I believe this was used by Frost Mage, but that might have been... There were 2 trinkets that are pretty similar. I think I might be confusing this with the Kel'Thuzad one. But not sure on that. Anyway, so basically this is a single target trinket where you use it on one target and you deal extra damage to that target. This has like little to no AoE impact. I don't think 50% extra damage is really going to do this. Again, you've gotten better trinkets since this thing has come out, so I don't think this will be that good. And finally, Sepulture. There's a lot of buffs here. A lot of these trinkets in Sepulture weren't that good. There was like 1 you wanted, and that was Cash. Well, I guess there were 3, but anyways, I don't think these would be that good. I think out of all of these, Bell might be pretty interesting. So Bell, basically your ability is stacked a debuff on the target. Whenever you reach 100 stacks, it would deal damage to them. These now stack on yourself, which means that this will proc an AoE, it'll proc in target swapping. Because the big problem is that the target would just die before you had a chance to ever use these stacks. But with it stacking on yourself, you can use these. So this could be interesting. I could see this being used in certain scenarios. Chain damage. Chains of Domination, spike damage increase and area effect damage increase. So basically you spike the target, and then whenever you did damage to them, it stored it and then blew up in an area. This trinket actually, I think, will be fairly decent. It'll just be really feels bad to use. Like the damage will be there and be decent. It'll just suck to use it. So I don't think anyone's really going to want to use this, especially with its long cooldown. But the increase really does help. Heart of the Swarm. Damage increase by 50%, you turn into a swarm. You're never going to use this. You're just not even going to talk about that. Intrusive Thought Cave is a tank trinket, which gives you dodge, and then you drain life, and then whenever that ends, you deal damage. The damage is so low, you're just never going to use this. You're going to use the trinkets from Sanctum Domination instead. So the increase is very inconsequential. Pulsating Rift Shard, basically you deal damage in a line, and then you get to absorb how much damage you dealt. Again, I don't think you're going to use this either. It's too finicky to set up, although it being on a 1-minute cooldown could have some interesting applications in M+, especially with it charging much faster. I don't think it'll be used, but this one I could be wrong about. I could see this coming back. Lion's Roar is a weird one that creates like a little healing bubble around you. It's a 10-minute cooldown, and your crit heals reduce it, and then you absorb 20% of all damage taken. It now absorbs 30%, and crit heals increase the CD by 6 seconds or decrease it. There's still a cap on the damage you can do, though, like total damage you can absorb, so I don't think this trinket will get much use. But there could be a weird scenario where you end up using it. And finally, Scars. So each rune you used gave you secondary stats, and the final rune you got a bunch of stats, and they blew up. However, there's a lot of downsides that come with this, and I don't think the downsides are going to make this buff worth it, but it will be funny. It was always a funny trinket to use, and it'll just be better if you're trying to meme around. So those are all the changes. Honestly, I was expecting a few more nerfs to weapons like Vein Ripper or Gavel, and I'm really happy they didn't, because I think us being the most powerful Season 4 is going to be really fun, and I'm super excited to check it out. So if you like this video, please leave a like, comment down below which of these trinkets you think are going to be good. Hit the little sub button, hit the bell if you want. I'll have a bunch of Season 4 content, a bunch of alpha content coming out. I have some tier lists and some guides planned for next week. And I just want to thank everybody for all the support, like always, and I really appreciate everyone, and I'll see you guys next time.